Hey y'all, welcome to did I get it on time? I think I was muted for the first hey y'all, so I said it twice. Um
Well, it was scary and effective, like Miss Minutes is, Dills, and that's all
mm,
that matters.
yeah, we're in this case invisible. We'll get into it. So we're here to talk about our Loki season 2 episode 1, or if you just want to call it episode 7, because we all know it was filmed as 12, or it was planned to be 12 episodes. They then decided to stop after episode 6 and air it as a first season and then bring back a second season. So I think it was all conceptualized all the way through. It's just big writer changes and director changes and all that too. So it does feel like a second season, but it is still a continuation of the same story. Um, Kels, how's it going?
I'm doing great, Dill. I'm so happy to be here talking about Loki season 2. I have been anticipating this project ever since Loki season 1 ended. And of course, in the aftermath of Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home, I've been dying to get to this project because I feel like Loki season 2 is where all of the answers are going to happen. Even coming off of Quantum Mania, when we got our, the big, that was Loki season 1 was when we first met Kang the Conqueror, but Quantum Mania was when we really got to see him in all his glory. And now it looks like we're seeing him again, which is
Yeah.
a conversation within itself.
Right? I was gonna
But
say nothing screams welcome back to Marvel like seeing the face of an abuser on every set piece of this movie of this show. It's okay.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we'll talk about the actual show in a sec and all that, but I just wanted to address one thing, and that is my allergies, my congestion. It is not too hot right now. So I'm gonna bundle up in my Loki hoodie that I got with the TVA symbols all over it, and I'm going to let Kelsey kind of drive this ship, unless I have to interject, which may be a little more often than I planned, just because I had a lot of things to say about this episode, both good and bad.
I
Uh,
love it.
so, yeah, Kels, do you have any news before we begin?
I don't have any news. All I
All right.
all I have to say before we begin is I was anticipating this and anticipating this for like a whole year now, and all I'm going to say is first episode did not disappoint.
Oh, okay.
Not even in the slightest. I'm very excited.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
will. I will
here's
say, I since
go ahead.
you gave your brief like overview of what you felt, I will say the opposite. I think because I waited so long for it, it's slightly disappointed. But
Interesting.
that's not to say it's a bad episode, nor is it a underwhelming episode. It's just like we'll get into it. We'll get into it, or you'll get into it, and I'll interject when I need to, and mute myself and blow my nose often and all that jazz. But take it
But
away, Kels.
first I must say, love the jacket, Dill.
Thank you. I mean, I wore it to when we saw Doctor Strange. It says variant on the back. I don't know if you see it.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. But the
Nice.
zipper broke, so I have to open it now. So I'm like, it's annoying because I
Oh,
don't want these stupid stripes on underneath.
I
But I need
see.
something on underneath, otherwise it's a tease. Yeah, I don't. I'm trying to hold it shut, but it's not really working.
It's working. It's working.
All right.
So here, so Loki season 2 episode 1 titled Ouroboros.
Yes, yes,
I'm
yes,
already excited.
yes.
Okay, here's the quick summary. In the Loki season 2 premiere, Loki and Morbius are reunited as they try to stop Loki from time slipping and save the TVA. So we start this episode right on the heels of where we ended on season 1. Loki is, obviously stuck in what we learn is the past, where Kang is ruling over the TVA and nobody knows where he is. This is the past. I ended season 1 thinking that this was going to be an alternate timeline, like a branch reality or something, but no, he's fully in the past of the current sacred timeline that we know and love. And so he kind of spends this whole episode jumping back and forth between being in the past, the present, and the future, which, as discussed ad nauseum in this episode, is impossible in the TVA, but it's possible because it's happening.
Yeah.
So Loki's jumping back and forth between the future and the past of the same timeline. We get Casey back, the um, the desk receptionist that we met in season 1, who's very funny. So I was happy to see him come back for season 2. Um, And in the midst of Loki trying to get away, obviously nobody knows who he is in this in the past. So everyone's going after him. They're saying that there's an intruder in the TVA. He's trying to escape this. And in the midst of this, he jumps off a balcony, lands onto a flying car, flying throughout the TVA, gets launched into the main meeting room where the monitor is that's tracking all of the branched realities. The monitor ends up falls and leaves a huge crack in the floor. And when he jumps into the future, or rather his present day, he sees the crack in the floor, which confirms that he is jumping back and forth between the past and the present. Um, so then Yes, he sees the crack in the floor. In the present, we cut to then Mobius and Hunter B-15, who are discussing what comes next. What are they going to do next? They're going to have to, come clean to the TVA about what's happening, that the timekeepers aren't real, that they don't know why they were created, that they're all variants. And obviously, although Mobius agrees with Hunter B-15 that they absolutely need to tell everyone the truth about the TVA, it's going to be hard because it's like everything that you've ever worked for and known is a lie. Your gods are dead. It's like that's going to cause mass chaos, hysteria, if you will. And so then we kind of meet what seemingly to be like our villain of season 2, this Hunter X5, who is this really tough macho man who we kind of get an introduction of him because he picks up one of Mobius's jet ski magazines and it's like, so are any of these in the sacred timeline? Are any of these calling to you? And he's kind of taunting him a little bit, but he ends up delivering the message that he was supposed to, the whole reason why he's there, and it's that the judges council wants to meet with Mobius and Hunter B-15 in the war room to discuss all the events that have happened. And so basically, while in that room, Hunter B-15, she has made a full character arc, right? She started this show being the TVA agent who captured Loki and who was hell bent on trying to capture Sylvie and, was very dedicated to her cause, but now has made a complete turnaround, a complete 180, and is like, we cannot prune any of these timelines. These are people with whole families and lives. And we had lives on the timeline, and you had a life, and you had a life, and we like everything we know is a lie, and we can't. The TVA has to change, and we cannot keep doing things the way that we've been doing. One of the judges council, I believe her name is Dox. I think we find out her name at the end of the episode, but she's the Scottish um judge, and
Yeah.
she's saying, no, screw the fact that the timekeepers aren't real. We have to keep doing what we're doing to protect this sacred timeline.
I don't think she said it like that though, Kels. She said, "Screw the timeline." I love the fucking Scottish accent so much.
Okay.
Like I said today, I was so sick. I'm not gonna interject unless I'm very passionate about it. And this is one of the
Yeah.
passionate things I am about it. I love a good Scottish accent. I just
Mhm.
worked the whole summer with some Irish friends. Yeah, it was such a good, like, fun, like, I love it. I just love a good Scottish accent. I'm a Shrek fiend. I love it. Um, just like, "Yeah, you must restore the timeline now." I'm like, "Oh god, it's so good." I love it.
uh Dill, I'm so jealous. I obviously love a Scottish accent. It's very fun, but I can't do one. I
Just
can't do one
watch
just off the
just
cusp
watch
like you
Brave
can.
twice and it'll stick.
Okay.
In one sitting. Just like, if you had the chance to change your fate, would you? It comes
Yeah, you
naturally.
gotta get like the whole lilt going and
Yeah.
everything. I'm
Yeah,
sure I
especially
could
like
do
the
it if
bigger Scottish dudes though, they have more of like a,
yeah.
"Look a deep baritone,"
But I will say
"Very
though,
deep."
obviously we both work in restaurants in Times Square, and so we encounter a lot of tourists, a lot of people visiting from outside the country, and every time I get a Scottish table, they're trying to like make conversation with me, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying. I'm so sorry. They're so hard to understand sometimes. And get Scottish people drinking and they're extra hard to
Yeah,
understand. And I'm
but
like,
we love them. Like,
aha,
it's my one of my
yeah.
favorite like, I love a British, Australian, Scottish accent, New Zealand, like, all that, like, I love it.
Mhm.
I mean, Malcolm, our rogue Kiwi on Trivia, like,
Yes.
it's just one of the best voices around. Like, they're just so pleasant to listen to. They've
Yeah.
got so much character, so much personality. Like, we're so boring, well, as
No, I
Americans,
know. I know.
we're so plain and boring, especially when we have allergies and can't really talk anyway. Fuck that. Yeah.
So, but thankfully, B15 comes around on the other judge at the table. I don't know her name, but she's like she kind of reminds me a little bit of like Edna Mode. Like she just has like this little like bob haircut, and she's very cute over at that end of the table. And she's saying, I've really changed. I've had a change of heart. We're going to stop pruning in the TVA effective immediately. And that's when Loki pops back in and is able to reunite with Mobius and tells him, kind of like fills him in about everything that's happening. So to prove to them that he's been bouncing back from the past and that there's, war coming basically, an unstoppable force coming their way, he takes Hunter X5's pruning stick and he prunes the wall that is in the war room, and he reveals Kang the Conqueror's face that has been kind of built over, and he's saying that this is the person that they need to be worrying about. They need to be preparing to kind of stop him. And
just like the world is.
Oh, but before right. It's tricky. This beat is my recital. That's
Yeah, I got you. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's tricky.
Yes. But before he reveals Kang the Conqueror to the present day Mobius and the Judges Council, Loki is stuck in the past. He plays a tape on the wall where we hear he remains his voice and he's thanking someone. He's saying, "Oh, I'm going to be so proud to lead with you. I'm very grateful that like I'm going to have you on my side." And at first we don't know who he could be talking about, and I'm thinking, "Oh, great, like this is going to be some unknown force that we meet later down the line." And then we find out within a matter of seconds that he's actually talking to Ravonna Renslayer, who we now know is someone who is not as innocent as we were led to believe at the end of season 1. We just thought that she was, just like dying for a cause that she didn't really, dying on a hill, if you will, for the timekeepers or whatever the TVA, what she thought it stood for. But it turns out she might know more than she was leading on. And so now she's just become extra untrustworthy in my mind. So then, yes, Loki comes back. He prunes the wall. Okay, so then after Mobius and Loki kind of disappear from the war room, we see this moment between the Scottish counselor and Hunter X5 where she tells him, like, we need to find out what happened at the end of time. I'm going to send you and a bunch of people after Sylvie, and we need to figure out what's going on here. And we kind of have this moment where they like put their heads together, and I can't tell if it's like a mother-son kind of relationship or like a romantic kind of relationship. But they cut to a shot of Hunter. Ew. Ew.
It's the TVA. They don't know.
We cut to a shot of Hunter B15, and the look on her face is exactly the look that I had on my face. She's just like, ew, what the fuck's going on here?
Right.
Like, it's exactly what I was thinking. So then Loki fills in Mobius about everything that happened at the end of time with Sylvie wanting to kill him and her trying to stop him, but then she kicked him through a time door. And basically, Loki explains to Mobius that Kang built the TVA and that you don't remember because he's wiped your memories probably more than once. And we have this really good stream of quotes from Mobius in this episode. I really, really enjoyed the banter between Mobius and Loki. It's something that I've been missing because I think that this show does such a good job of like really like sliding in the comedy and the comedic moments, and it doesn't feel forced at all to me.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, Dill.
Though I just for some reason this is the first episode where I was like, this comedy is just so out of place. And maybe not the two of them, but like the one exchange where the guy just comes up and starts talking about jet skis with him, like just you could hear a pin drop. I wasn't laughing. The people I was watching with weren't laughing. Like that wasn't funny. Like I don't know what the actual exchange was. I don't know if that's what you're talking about. Like the stuff with Loki and Mobius is always good, but it was like the other stuff when they're very clearly trying to go for a laugh, like you don't
Sure.
really even need to go for the laugh because these characters and their chemistry kind of produces that comedy. It's why Kioi Kwan, we'll get to, was such a good choice for his character, because you don't even need to make a joke to make it funny. You just have a funny personality. Whereas that it was the first jet ski joke, because it really felt like one of those shoehorned in one-liners that just fell so flat. I was like, ugh, and I think it happened like 2 more times in the episode where like a joke was made and I was like, I don't know. But I think it's just getting used to this whole new writing team and directing team. I mean, like, I loved everything. Oh my god, what's her name? The director of the first season. Help me out, trivia queen. I forget what she did with the first season, and what Michael, who wrote Multiverse of Madness. What's his name?
Malcolm Spellman.
Michael
No.
Waldron. Michael Waldron. Yeah. So what Michael Waldron as the writer, and then Kate Herron as the director. That was it. Wow, she rusty. I'm kidding. I wouldn't have
Who,
known it either.
me?
It was a joke. But yeah, Michael Waldron and Kate Herron, like, I loved what they did so much to where now it's like it's just a little obvious that the team has changed just slightly. Because now our new head writer is Eric Martin, who I believe has worked on other things in the MCU. I think he I don't know. I don't have enough time to research it all now. But and then Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead doing the directing, which I like their work. I've seen a few of their films outside of the MCU, but like, I don't know. There's just something missing in terms of the writing. There's a little bit of a disconnect for me that I noticed, but maybe it's because I was conscious about it and knew about it. I'm not sure.
Well, Eric Martin, I don't think he wrote anything else for the MCU, but he has written some episodes for Community, which is a series that I really like a lot.
There you go. Yeah, that's the Russo brothers. So there you go.
Exactly. So like I was saying, oh yeah, because now this is kind of the bit where Mobius and Loki are talking about every time Loki kind of time slips, and he's like, "How does it look?" And Mobius is like, "Yeah, it's not that bad." And then he's like, "I can't keep watching you do that. We have to figure this out." And Loki's like, "No, no, no. We have to figure out Kang and finding Sylvie. Like those are the issues we need to focus on." He's like, Mobius is like, "No, like we have to fix this time slipping thing because I hate looking at it. It's terrible." And Loki's like, I thought you said it wasn't that bad. And he's like, no, I was lying. It's really, really bad. Um, and then Mobius has this great line where he's like, well, in order to in order to get he who remains, I need a Loki who remains, which I thought was like a quick, like blink and you'll miss it kind of line, which I really appreciated the second time I watched the
Yeah,
episode.
no, that's the thing. The blink and you miss it stuff is great. It's when they're like
Yeah.
going for the joke, it's not as good.
No,
Like that
yeah,
line was
sure.
good. That line was good.
And maybe I don't know, because I'm trying to think of a specific moment where I was just like, "Oh, wow, they really try to go for the comedy there," and then it fell flat. Like, I never really felt like that trying to do it. Maybe I'm just also watching this show with rose-colored glasses on because I love it so much.
Yeah, well,
So
no, and
it could just be that.
yeah, and I'm just being nitpicky too. Like I'm
Sure.
sick. I'm in a bad mood. So
And then we have a good quote from Mobius that was also something I missed the first time I watched the episode was as they're going down the elevator to, as we know, meet Ouroboros / OB / Kiwei Kwan. He says as the elevator shuts, I have no memory of having my memory wiped, which I was like, that's so Mobius.
that was good too. Yeah, like the
So
subtle comedy is still so good. It's just they need to get out of the MCU. Like we need to go for the laugh because the subtle
yeah,
stuff is funny enough. Yeah,
because
I agree.
Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston just, like, bantering together as their characters
Exactly.
is the comedy within itself. Like, we don't need any more like, we don't need a bit. We just need to, like,
Right.
watch them have a
Yes.
conversation,
No
and
bits. That's a perfect. Yeah. We don't
yeah.
need bits. We just need banter. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So then we meet Ouroboros, OB. He works for repairs and advancements, and Mobius is hoping that he's gonna have some sort of answer as to why Loki is, time slipping as he is. Um And we have this really interesting scene, Dill, where, I mean, obviously, like, Casey Kwan is
Yeah.
just
I
a
mean, yeah.
delight. I mean,
So good. And again, he's the type of person that like doesn't really even need to like a lot of the times I'm like, is he acting or is he just like
is
is
he
he
just
Kiwi
like
Kwan?
that?
But
Yeah.
Kiwi Kwan, like he does that. He just is this infectious personality which works for this character. He was obviously acting as it went along, but I feel like it's just so genuine from him to where like Yeah, I want to see him in every project ever made ever. So
Yeah, literally. I could never get tired of him. And so he's trying to explain to Mobius and Loki that, yeah, it's impossible. And so I don't have a solution to this problem because it shouldn't be happening in the first place. And then Loki ends up slipping into the past where he meets past Ouroboros. Um, and they're having this fucking siren that's
I
going. I'm
hear
so
it. I hear
sorry.
it.
I'm
I
just
hear it.
so distracted with that going on in the background. I apologize. New York City, baby. What are you gonna do? And so Loki and past OB are having the same conversation that Mobius and present OB are having. And they're kind of between the two OBs in the past and the present that he's like slowly figuring out what he can do to help Loki. And
Yeah.
basically the solution is that he needs a temporal aura extractor to pull Loki out of the time stream, and they have to do this at this place in the TVA called the temporal loom, which is where the temporal loom is basically like this giant vacuum where they take in the like potential time lines, and then it goes through the temporal loom and it becomes physical timelines. And because they're not pruning any more extra timelines anymore, the temporal loom is taking in too much stuff. It's like when you're actually vacuuming and you get like a
Mm.
Lego stuck in there, and then your vacuum starts sucking up things. That's
Right.
what's happening to the TVA.
Two things.
Go ahead.
I love the scene where it's like past Loki, present Loki with Ouroboros, all that stuff
Yeah,
was so good. Like I
yeah,
really think that was very clever, very good. Again, like the actual comedy is good. It's when they're not going for the bit. Like this was just a very funny scene. And I don't know if this is intentional or coincidental. I can't think it's coincidental. But say what is the thing he keeps saying over and over? The place they need to get to. Say it
the
over and over.
temporal loom.
Yeah, say it a little
Tem-
slower.
temporal loom.
Just keep saying it.
Temporal
Temporal loom,
loom.
temporal loom,
Temporal
temporal
loom.
loom.
Temporal loom.
What does it
Temporal loom.
sound like,
Temporal loom.
Kelsey?
Temporal
That we
loom.
what do we hear Ke Huy Quan basically say in every single one of his Oscar award speeches after every time he won? When I met Steven Spielberg on the set of Temple of Doom, Temple of Doom, Temple of Doom, every time he said it, I thought he was saying Temple of Doom. I was like,
Temple of Doom.
there's no way, because that's the movie he was in as a kid that
Yeah.
he became famous for, that and the Goonies.
Yeah.
But it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no way, because every time he was interviewed, he'd say, ever since I was a kid on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Temple of Doom. I just every time he said temporal loom, I thought Temple of Doom, and I was
Temporal.
like, it can't not be a coincidence. I think my cold just cleared because I'm so passionate about this. Like I literally think the writers were like, what can we call this? A temporal loom. That sounds like Temple of Doom. That is perfect. Or did they write the line and then after thinking of who could play the part, saw Ke Huy Quan's audition or whatever, and heard Temple of Doom and went, or temporal loom and went, ha, it sounds like he's saying Temple of Doom. Wait, um, I don't know.
Oh
I
my
think there's
God,
something
that's
there. I
funny.
think there's something there because he says it so many times in this episode, and literally in those Oscar speeches, he would say them so many times. Because
Yeah.
that's like his whole story is he was a kid on Temple of Doom, grew up, saw no parts for Asian actors, quit the business, and came back after he saw Crazy Rich Asians. Because he's such a
Wow.
good role, so he's so good in this role. But I wonder if the intention was always to make him like the kind of quirky, kind of funny, energetic little guy in the basement, or was it supposed to be a little bit creepier? Because the actual Ouroboros, like the history behind it, everyone knows the Ouroboros. It's like that dragon symbol, like the old ancient symbol, the Ouroboros, like
Yeah.
the dragon eating its own tail or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I would have expected when they said we got to go find Ouroboros or whatever. I was expecting something a little like spookier and scarier, but I almost
Mm.
like this whole kind of like, oh, we're going into the basement. And it's like, hi, it's me, Ke Huy
Y-
Quan. Like I
Yeah.
just love
Yeah.
that. Sorry, my hood's falling off. So I
No
just think
worries.
there's so many little coincidences here that are so funny, like Temporal Loom versus Temple of Doom. I was the only one to notice it. I sent it in my Discord where we talk about like TV and stuff, and no one else responded. I was like, guys, you're not hearing this? Are you sure? Listen again because it's one of those things that I feel like Screen Junkies would pick up on. But
Yeah. That
yeah,
would be quite the Easter egg. I hope it was purposeful
I
because
hope
that's
so
very
too.
fun. But obviously with this whole plan, with the temporal loom and the temporal oral, oh my God, aura extractor. We're running into a few issues because a lot can go wrong here. First, Loki's gonna have to like basically pull himself apart through
I
time
thought you
and
were
space.
saying when you said we're having lots of issues. I thought you were going to say because the words are so hard for you to pronounce. I
Oh
didn't know you were referring to the show.
no,
Gotcha.
there was. Well, I will say that with this whole like couple of scenes where we're finding out everything that they need to do, a lot of new information and like new technology and new like terms that I had to understand were being thrown at me really, really quickly. Like I had to pause and like rewatch just for the sake of like going through the episode for this podcast. I was like, wait, I missed all of that. Go back because I'm taking notes and I'm watching. So I'm
Yeah.
like, it took me a few
Well,
tries to like really grasp what was
mhm.
happening.
And I think this is kind of where we could segue into my one like big gripe about the episode. And the reason I was a little underwhelmed is because it was very expositionary to where it felt
Hmm.
like almost like a pilot for a series, not the beginning of a second season. Because we've already kind of
Sure.
like we're already on this trajectory, this timeline, if you will. And now this episode, I feel like just kind of like had a mini little problem. And the thing is, it gets solved at the end. We're gonna talk about it, but it's like that problem gets solved to where it's now like it's kind of like the She-Hulk thing where the first episode was good, but it was like it didn't tell us anything about what the rest of the series would be. It had
Mm.
nothing to do with her law career. It was all about how she became She-Hulk. And then the second episode is when it introduced the law career. That's what I feel like here. It's like this first episode is, oh hey, I am jumping between timelines. Fix me. Okay, now we're fixed. What is the rest of the show going to be about? And I think this was just kind of like exposition and just kind of easing us back in, which I guess when we see in the long run could be a good thing. But it was just kind of like where I was like, oh, I just want to get to like where is the he who he who remains? Where is Renslayer? Where is another character that we'll talk about later? Like there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, I just want to get going, and it felt like this was
Sure.
just kind of like a let's pause, have our own little mini thing with Loki doing these little spastic things and try to fix that, which was like cool. But it's like if that's gonna be a thing, like carry it out through a little bit more of the season, then like make it an actual conflict. Because now it's like, oh, we fixed it, we got Kiyohi Kwan's help, and now is he gonna be in it more? Is that it for him? Like that's where I'm like, oh, I hope not, because he's only in those very few trailer shots, which we already saw. So
Right.
I just hope we get more of him. I don't know.
Well, what I will say, Dill, is that I think that I feel like for the first time, since WandaVision really, is that this kind of really felt like an episode of television and not just like a mini Marvel movie because
Right.
we had, yes, an individual conflict that we do solve at the end of the episode, but it's very clear that the overall arc of the season is still very much like in trouble. Like the rest of
Right.
it is going to be figuring out how to stop Kang. And then especially like there are some things that we don't solve at the end of this episode, like what we're going to be doing to these timelines that are now creating this like problem with the temporal loom, and
Right.
are they going to start pruning again, or are
True.
they going to let these timelines just branch off, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And I think
Because
it would have been better if they didn't leave the last season on such a big cliffhanger to where
mhm,
it just really kind of feels a little like, it's just he's in the past now, but we're gonna fix it by the end. He'll be in the present again. Like that's where I think if you're gonna end on that big monumental moment of everything's wrong, Mobius doesn't know who I am, maybe you have it go another episode or two and then kind of resolve the time jumping past present and then continue on, because now it just felt like, oh yeah, that big cliffhanger, it's okay, we're gonna clear it up for you. But there is still a lot of more questions, and that's why I did like this episode. It's just like I
yeah,
wasn't as like it's such a welcome return. I was just kind of like, okay, like it's very exposition heavy. Now I want the juice. Like
right.
it was a good piece of toast. Now I want the juice to wash it down. So my breakfast analogy of the day. Anyway, continue on with your recap because there's still some cool stuff coming.
Yes, and so that was one of the issues that we, at Ouroboros realizes is that, we're basically gonna have to carry out this plan right now of extracting Loki out of the time so that he stops timeline, so he stops time slipping, because I'm gonna have to shut down the temporal loom so that the TVA doesn't like explode,
Mhm.
because we're taking in too many timelines, and I'm basically either going to have to start pruning again, which Hunter B-15 is very adamant that they do not do anymore. So he's going to have to reconfigure the machine to be able to take in more timelines than just the one. So I think with that whole side plot happening, amongst the show, maybe in the next episode, we will see Ouroboros again, or at least I'm
I
hoping we
hope
do.
so. He's so good.
And so right before they're about to carry out the plan, Loki time slips. Actually, this time, instead of going to the past, he goes to the future, where it's kind of post temporal loom explosion, whatever happens. The TVA is in like complete disarray. It too many timelines came through, and so now he is scrambling to find a pruning stick because he needs to prune himself when the gadget Ouroboros gave him turns green, because that is when the extractor is out in the timeline, and that is when he's going to be able to be extracted. During all this, he's running around the TVA trying to find a pruning stick, and eventually he comes across. Oh, I also didn't mention the big gag is that Mobius is worried that if he doesn't get Loki in time and he doesn't come back into the TVA in time, all of his skin is going to melt off. That is Mobius's obstacle in this, is that he doesn't, he wants to keep his skin, which is the bit, which is I thought was a good bit.
I don't know.
I didn't. Funny.
The whole like writing skin on the thing with his face. I was like, what? Why? Like,
no, I thought that was funny. He's just over there like, will I have my skin again? Like,
I don't know. That for me, like that was one of those jokes that I was like, it just didn't land.
Sure.
But again, like that, it's subjective. I mean, comedy is the most subjective art form. Like,
yeah.
So.
And I loved the moment where Ouroboros is like quickly wrapping up everything that needs to do, because he's like, and remember, if you don't get this done, you'll be lost in time forever, and Mobius will lose his skin. And then it like cuts to Owen Wilson. He's just like, why do you have to keep bringing this up? Like, I get it. Like, my skin is in danger. I thought it was funny. And
that's what they mean when they say get your skin in the game,
Yeah. So then we know. So now cutting back to Loki being in the future, we know that Loki's in the future because he looks at the computer where Mobius wrote skin ? It was to let it was funny, Dill, but like the real usage of him writing skin on the computer was to let the Loki and the audience know that he's not in the past anymore, he's in the future. Anyway, so now we cut to a hallway where a telephone is ringing. We have this really eerie moment, and I kind of watched this scene a couple of times because we see this shot of Loki's face as he's looking at the telephone, but then he's also looking as someone is trying to pry themselves out of this elevator, and he's trying to see who it is. And in the background, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure Mobius is standing in the background just watching this scene unfold. I have to watch it again. I think it's Mobius. It could just be a random person, but I'm pretty sure it's Owen Wilson. And basically, it's revealed that the person who's trying to get out of the elevator is Sylvie, and she looks at Loki and goes, "Oh, there you are!" Like she's been looking for him. And as they have this moment of almost like reuniting with each other since fighting over whether or not they were going to kill He Who Remains, this is obviously like post kiss, which has obviously had a real big effect on Loki. He gets pruned in the back by someone, and I'm pretty sure he was pruned in the back by Mobius. And he gets pruned in the back right in the nick of time because he's able to get extracted from the timeline. Him and Mobius go barreling through the doors of the temporal loom, where Ouroboros obviously had to, hit the big red button and say, listen, I'm so sorry. There's nothing you can do for each other. I have to close these doors or else the TVA is going to be in danger. And the first thing that Loki says to Mobius as they realize that Loki didn't get stuck in time and Mobius gets to keep his skin, he looks at him and says, "We need to find Sylvie." And so we kind of end the episode on this button of Docs and Hunter X5 and all of these, TVA, what are they called? It's not agents. Maybe it is. Hunters, I guess. The hunters of the TVA all barreling through a time door because they're all going after Sylvie. But then Hunter D90, who is he's like the pug of Loki, like just like this, not, I don't know, maybe he just like looks like Pug, but he gives like the same energy as Pug, where he's just like this nice guy who's like making a come around because he was the one Hunter, who apologized to Mobius at the beginning of the episode, like, hey, I'm sorry, I was just doing my job. And so he's kind of coming around to be on kind of, Team Loki and Team Mobius. And he kind of makes a comment where he's like, no, that doesn't seem right. I don't buy that all these people are just going after Sylvie. Like, they must be up to something else.
Right.
And so that is the end of our episode. But there is a post-credit scene, which I didn't think was going to happen. I was like, you know what? Let me just look. Let me just check. I'm conditioned to look for post-credit scenes with the MCU, and I'm glad I did, because we jump to Broxton, Oklahoma. The year is 1982, and we see Sylvie stepping out of a time door. And she walks to, I guess, the nearest eating establishment, which turns out to be a McDonald's.
Yeah.
And she's like, how does this work? What do I do? And he's like, oh, well, you can try this. You can try our new McNuggets that are on our menu. And
new McNuggets. I love that.
Yeah. And she just goes, I just want to try everything. And we kind of have this moment where she's kind of having this like real moment of relief where it's like, oh, I killed the guy. I don't have to run from the TVA anymore. Like, I'm just going to like live my life now. And I'm sorry to say, Sylvie, that I don't think that this vacation of yours is going to last too long. Unfortunately.
Eat that Big Mac and enjoy it while you can. Except Big Macs suck. Get something else. Get a quarter pounder. I hate Big Macs. They're gross.
And so that was the end of Loki season 2, episode 1. I did do a little deep dive into two things coming off of this episode. And that is the fact that I wanted to know if it was historically accurate that the McNuggets came out in 1982. And I'm so sorry to report that according to the McDonald's website, the McNuggets came out on US menus in 1983. So they're actually a year off. And then I wanted to do a deep dive into the character, the new, obviously big character we were introduced to in this episode, Ouroboros, because I wanted to see what his whole deal was. And in the comics, Ouroboros is actually not just one person, it's a group of people. They kind of do the same, kind of act as the same way that Ouroboros in the show acts as, though, where they were kind of in charge of conducting experiments to create unique tools for the people that they were fighting against. And this included, one of the things that they were able to recreate was the super soldier serum in the comic books, which I thought was cool. And obviously I looked in, just upon Googling Ouroboros, the snake image that you were talking about earlier, Dill, appeared, and it's like to basically represent like infinity. It's like, the same effect as the infinity symbol, or the number 8, if you will. And
one thing on the McDonald's, do you know how late in 1983, was it 83 or 82?
The show, it takes place in 1982, but according to McDonald's, the McNuggets came out on US menus in the year 1983. I don't know what month, if that's what
so
you're
the
asking.
show was earlier.
Yes.
Okay. I was about to say, like, two things. If the show was after, it could have been like January. So like, what if it came out in December? It would still be new after 2 months. Or maybe in that version, the show, they're testing out the McNuggets to then permanently put on menus nationwide the next year. Or it's just an oversight and they could have been better with their research, because obviously you found the answer in 2 minutes, where all they had to do was Google it, so.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know if that's like, I don't know, they're trying to like tell us something or something via McNuggets, but I just wanted to see if that was historically accurate. But I did see something along the lines of like in 1981, like the concept of a chicken nugget was introduced to grocery stores, and then maybe like 1982, like they put out McNuggets in select stores, and then they like went nationwide in 1983. Maybe it was something like that. But because I don't see MCU writers getting their facts that wrong, especially like you said, information I found in like 30 seconds, they could have found just as easily. So
exactly.
Maybe they know something that I don't. Maybe in specifically that McDonald's in Broxton, Oklahoma, that was like the first one ever to have McNuggets or something, and I just didn't go that crazy into the research.
Well, I'll give you this. I've been sharing the things I didn't like about the episode, but now let me tell you why I did like this episode.
Yes, please.
The style is always going to be so cool, and I think they really did it again this time. Even the stuff in space, the visual effects look good. I think the Ouroboros, like little basement laboratory thing, looked good. There's still a practicality to everything in the TVA, but like an otherworldliness outside of it, which I love. The McDonald's aesthetic was great. Like I think everything aesthetically about the show is really good. Aside from seeing Jonathan Major's face plastered over everything, but I get it. He's the villain, so it's a little bit easier to be like, fuck you. But I really do think the overall aesthetic and visual stuff going on in the show is next to none. And I do think that's what's keeping it engaging. And I still think the story is engaging. It's just for a premiere for a second season, I would have liked for the conflict to last a little longer, or for them to like at least get a little bit more to the point of what the next steps are. Like, because it ends with the whole "let's find Sylvie" thing, and I feel like that's going to be next the next few episodes is that. Or maybe that'll be the next episode, and we're gonna kind of just get like a different adventure every week that like leads up to this big hole. I don't know. But my one thing that I hated about this episode, Kels.
Oh no.
Where was she?
Oh yeah.
Where the fuck was she?
We learned last season that we can't trust Miss Minutes.
Where
Loki
is she?
said it himself. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, I definitely think that she's coming back, Dill. I don't think that she's gone.
We know she's in the trailer, but like, why is she not? Like, literally, there are people who tune into the show because they're Marvel loyals. Like, I would say we are. But like, for the people that aren't, like, what if I wasn't a Marvel loyal? I would literally come back to the show for her. And then you're not giving it to me. You're not going to get my eyes for the next 5 episodes, Marvel.
Or the idea is that we're not going to give you her in the first episode. You're just going to have to stay tuned to next week to see if she comes.
I'll just watch the first season again. I'll just watch the jump scare. I'll watch because she is such like an easy thing to just like throw in there. Just throw her in there. I don't know. Like because they talk about her. That's the worst thing. Is they're like, oh, usually Miss Minutes. Oh, don't trust Miss Minutes. Like I would have loved for like, just give us one scene with Ravonna and Miss Minutes, just to show that they're still there. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, they're definitely 2 major players that will be coming back now that we know that Ravonna is working with Kang or has worked with Kang in the past. Maybe she's had her memory wiped and she doesn't remember working with him. That's another possibility that I explored in my brain. I just think that these are 2 people that are definitely going to be seen again. I'm so sorry that it wasn't in this episode, Dill.
I mean, we literally like retroactively made our background orange because of her before we even knew she existed. So like, I don't know why. It's just I don't know. I mean, justice for her. Justice for Miss Minutes. Thank you. That's all I wanted you to say. No, we'll get more of her hopefully next episode. Because there's that iconic shot from the trailer. I'm not gonna say it in case you forgot it, but like, I can't wait for that. Like, give me some of that in October. Give me some of that horror. I love it. More scary Miss Minutes, please. Like my scream queen right there. All right. Any other thoughts on this episode? Yeah, Kels.
Yeah, what you were saying before about the aesthetic and everything. I think my favorite sequence of the show was obviously when Ouroboros is anything involving Ouroboros is going to be my favorite part of the show from just here on out. But when he's explaining to them everything that they need to do, he's taking them to the temporal loom. The shot of them walking through the hallway and like the little quips of like what each character's doing. I'm like, this is Loki. Like this shot of like them like on the move to like do something with like the aesthetic of the set and like the lights flickering because the TVA is like malfunctioning. Like I'm like, this is so Loki. Like this is why it feels so like its own thing, but also an extension of the MCU at the same time. This is like, like there was a review I saw, obviously, like on the Marvel website. What am I saying? Am I 80 years old? On the Marvel Instagram, they like posted like, oh, all the good reviews that came in, and one of them was Marvel's best show. And honestly, after watching this episode, I might have to agree with that. I think that wherever I had Loki before on our TV show rankings,
You had it
I
way
was
lower than I
wrong.
did. I love
It it should have been way higher. I don't know what I was thinking. And I'm really hoping that this episode like sets the bar and that we just keep moving up to bigger and better things. I really hope it doesn't pull a secret invasion.
Well, that
Excuse
never
me.
was good though.
And well, the
Like
first
like
episode was fine. Like it was like,
you
"Oh,
thought so.
cool.
I hated
This
the
stuff
first
is
episode.
happening."
I was on the bandwagon of it
When
sucks
did you
from the
were
I
you
was the
ever on
driver of
board
the
at
wagon.
all?
No.
Okay, well, I thought that that show started fine and then it just took a major decline. I don't see that happening here with Loki, but
No.
ever since that
No,
show,
and
I am nervous.
that's the thing. Me being slightly underwhelmed, unenthused here is because I think it's only going to get better and bigger from here. And the Giants Dolphins just kicked off, so we got to go soon. But I did love just how much it's set up, and I hope we just continue on this thread because it really is one of the best shows, if not the best one. So I'm very very excited, and the performances are great. Obviously, I mean, we'll hear Tara Strong eventually, but I just think it's just so dynamic. The performances are great, and I hope they don't overindulge with Jonathan Majors. I really hope they keep him on the back burner if they can as much as possible, and I think that's what the extra time to make the show has been about. Hopefully, making it so you only include him when you need to, and not overindulge. And if that's why we lost Miss Minutes, though, because she's in tandem with him, I'm going to be pissed because it's like your actions, sir, are the reason we don't get more Miss Minutes. I don't know, but I'm excited to
No,
see
I
what
don't.
happens with this with every character.
Yeah. Well,
And we know how it's
well,
going to end. I mean, Mobius is going to get his jet ski. It's going to happen, but we'll see.
okay, but
Or
that's
he's going to
all we
die, and
know
we're going to be
about the
all sad about
ending.
it. Yeah.
I do have a question I want to ask you, Dill, just based
Okay.
off of this first episode.
Yes.
And is this gonna? How many episodes are there gonna be? Do you know?
6. 6. Because
6.
originally
Oh
it was
my
going to be a
god,
12 episode series.
that's not enough. I want more. First of all,
Well, you're getting more than the normal because the normal show is 6 episodes. WandaVision has been more. What If has been more. She-Hulk has been more. And then Loki, technically, it's 12 episodes. If you look at it as the grand whole, because this is technically it was supposed to be a 12 episode show. Then they decided to split it when they were making it. They were like, actually, let's just make this the end point and leave it on a cliffhanger, and then we'll do the rest another time. So I think we're getting lucky that we
right.
get six more episodes than
I
any other show has because we
I
only
know,
got
but
6 Moon Knights, only got 6 Miss Marvels. We only needed 3 of those, but
I'm just sad because I could watch seasons and seasons and seasons of this show. I think that post
I know.
Loki, Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston should just team up and do a show together, like apart from the MCU. They like Showtime should just like write something for them or something.
Midnight in Paris, Midnight in Paris. But again, written by an awful human being. So like, do I want to support it? No.
Right.
Yeah.
But what
All
I
right.
want to ask you, Dill,
Yes.
hey,
Oh, I thought that was your
you,
question. I thought that was your question. Anyway.
no, I
Okay.
don't remember asking you the question.
Okay.
Oh, how many episodes? No, that wasn't the question.
Okay.
My
Yeah.
question is that at the end of all of this, at the end of Loki season 2, within the next 5 episodes, when this all gets summed up into something, do you think we're going to see Loki again in the MCU? Or do you think that this is his big send off?
Well, it depends on what they do with him. I see a
I'm
world
just
where it's
saying,
like the Thor thing where it's like he's not dead but he's in retirement and like there's no reason to bring him back anytime soon. But you always have that option. It's not like an Iron Man or even like a Black Widow. But then again, they brought back Black Widow in some way, so I don't know. I'd like to believe that it's the end because he's dead in the MCU proper because of Thanos. Yeah, I'd like to believe this will be it. But who knows?
you would like to believe. I'm like nervous.
No,
I'm
not like
nervous
to
that this
believe, but
is gonna.
it's a phrase. Like I'd like to think. That's a phrase. I don't like to think it, but I'd be I'd
You
be
you're
I'd be
compelled to think.
I'm compelled to believe. Yes, there we
Yeah,
go.
that's maybe better.
I'm led to believe. Yeah, I think this is it for him. But like, if it's gonna be a send off, make it a good send off. Like, I don't need it to be like if it's the end of a character, but it feels fitting. That's good. Like, RDJ and Iron Man. And now look, he's gone on to great things. He's gonna win an Oscar this year. Like sometimes it's just the right time to say the end and not let it's the what's the phrase from Dark Knight? You die the hero, you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
You either die the hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Is
Exactly
that
what
not
you
what I
said. I
just
just
said?
repeated
Yeah,
it.
okay. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm zany on pain meds. I slept till 11:40 and we got on here at like 11:50. So I'm just like I'm ready to like clear out my sinuses, watch a Giants game, then go see The Exorcist Believer, and then TikTok about it because on TikTok we are doing our 31 days of Halloween. I am doing mine in the order I structured. Kelsey's going off the cuff and randomizing her order, which is much more fun than what I'm doing. But we're both reviewing them. So Kelsey's is more of like a watch along with Kelsey. Like you get to see her reactions. Mine is more of a review. So it's like two different types of people will like two different types of things. But check out both of them because they're both great. Kelsey, what has been your favorite thing you've watched so far?
Oh, that's tough because Matt actually just commented that on my latest video, and I was thinking about responding to it just in the comments, but I was thinking about like replying to his comment with a video because you can do that on TikTok, and it's tough. I mean, Barbarian was certainly the scariest that I've watched
Really?
out
Okay.
of the 7. I mean, Signs, I really enjoyed Signs. It's tough because I don't know which lens to look at it. I'm like, should I look at it for just like a well done movie, or should I be going for it was my favorite because it scared me the most, or should it be my favorite because it's so like it's such an interesting story? Like I don't know which way to go about it in my brain. Um,
I could tell you the
but
best movie you watch this week.
uh,
Nope is the best movie you'll
oh
probably watch all
yeah,
month.
Nope
But
was really
um,
really good.
but is it scary? I think it's scary because it's
No, it
also
is.
scary about
It's
how we uh make spectacles of things that are innocent, like
y-
animals, and the
yeah,
reason the monkey parallel to the UFO and like treating it like
yeah.
this thing just to be spectacleized. I love that shit. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's like this, it's a whole commentary on like our reaction as a society now is to just like film bad shit that happens instead of like
right.
actually helping and being useful
Yeah. Well,
human beings.
you'll be able to tell us because at the end of the month we're gonna do a wrap up video, so you'll be able to tell us then if you have like a top 5 or whatever. So like I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but what has been
Oh
the
no.
scariest movie you watched this week? Let's go with that.
I think the scariest is definitely Barbarian.
Okay.
And honestly, The Visit, close second.
Right, right. Oh, I
Um
knew you'd like that.
Barbarian was just like gross and, like, creepy and, like, definitely had, like, the gore factor where, like, The Visit
Yeah.
was just, like, classic, like, jump scare, like, it's
Well,
filmed, like, what's that called? Like, found footage kinda
right,
style.
kind of like
So,
camcorder. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
also the thing with Barbarian is also the real life scary stuff about like the Me Too movement and men trying to get away with shit, and then
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
push comes to shove, quite literally, push
Yeah.
comes to shove, they will push women off the ledge before themselves, literally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, scariest movie I've seen. None of the ones I watched for Black and White Week were scary. They were just kind of like cool horror, Halloween, movies. So I guess Saw X was the scariest one I watched so far.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so
Ooh.
we'll keep it at that. And next week is my '80s week. So on the docket we got The Exorcist, which is the new release, but then we've got we're watching The Shining, American Werewolf in London, Possession, The Fly, and Friday the 13th Part 3. What are you watching today, or you haven't picked yet?
Oh, I already filmed my episode for today last night. So
Oh, could you
I
give us a tease as to what we're gonna see? Or actually, well, technically, this is coming out yesterday, so they've already seen it. So what did you watch yesterday?
Bodies, bodies, bodies.
Okay, cool.
And it was alright. I I
Yeah,
I
yeah, it's
was
just all
I
right.
wasn't in
Yeah,
love.
yeah,
I
I
I
get
I
you.
enjoyed the twist at the end, and there was some really good comedic banter happening in that movie, but for the most part, I just found every single one of those characters insufferable, and I
Yeah,
was like, "This is supposed to represent, like, our generation, and they're depicted so stupidly." Like, I get, like,
right.
characters in scary movies have to be, like, a little, like, dumber because if they're all making smart decisions, then there's no plot, um, but I was just like, "Ah, this is such a bummer, man, that, like,
Yeah.
this is supposed to represent like Gen Z in a scary movie, and they're all like so dumb.
Yeah. But then again, you have Cosmo the dog front and center.
Yes, I did realize that.
Maria
That
Buffalo.
was an MCU packed movie. That movie.
Yeah,
Lee
was.
Pace, Cosmo, Pete Davidson's in the MCU now.
That is true. All right. Yeah, that's great. I can't wait to see that video of your reaction to it and all your frustration toward it. Where else can they find you though, Kels?
You can find me on TikTok. My new TikTok is Kelsey A. Kilpatrick. It's the same thing. No, it's Kelsey A. Kilp because Kilpatrick's too long. But my Instagram is Kelsey A. Kilpatrick. So
I
it should
will
be
officially
easier.
change that for next week. I'm sorry. I
No,
keep
no
forgetting.
worries. No worries.
But-
It's the same thing. It's it should be easier to find me across the board now. Cause is dead. She can't come to the phone right now. Why? Because she's dead.
Gotcha. Eras tour this week. You excited?
I know. I'm not seeing it this weekend. I'm seeing it next weekend because this weekend I'm going away, so I wouldn't have been able to see it opening weekend anyway.
It's okay. It's okay. We forgive you. All right. Next week you're getting either more Loki or more trivia. Either way, it'll be really fun. We're filming some matches this week, so we might put those out next week, especially with Kelsey traveling. I don't know yet if we're gonna get a Loki review out. If not, we'll get 2 Lokis next week. We'll make it work. There's a lot of stuff to get to this month, including the 31 Days of Halloween special at the end. So a lot of stuff, and we'll see you next time with whatever that is.